The following program is a podcast1.com production.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
It's a beast. He's got fangs, razor sharp ones, massive paws, killer claws for the feast. Hear him roar, see him foam, but we're not coming home till he's dead. Good and dead! To the beast!
President Trump should resign. These allegations are credible. They are numerous. I've heard these women's testimony, and many of them are heartbreaking.
The president should resign because he certainly has a track record with more than 17 women of horrific conduct.
We have a president of the United States who acknowledged on a tape, widely seen all over this country, that he assaulted women. So I would hope that maybe the president of the United States might pay attention to what's going on and also think about resigning.
What's going on in this country is insane.
What did I tell you last week on the Ingraham angle? Well, on Thursday night, I told you the reason they had forced out Al Franken was because they wanted to go first at Roy Moore, and more importantly, they wanted to revive all the old allegations against Donald Trump. That's precisely what happened. It was like clockwork. Choreographed from the get-go. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. The big special election today in Alabama. It all comes down to turnout. An old friend of mine, one of my roommates, right post-law school, who lives in Birmingham, texted me last night and said, I thought Moore was going to win, but Doug Jones is spending huge amounts of money. He's gotten a big influx of cash, infusion of cash, I should say. And they're really pushing the voter turnout. Well, whether that actually comes to fruition, we don't know yet. We always hear about the turnout is going to be big and huge. It usually is the case that the turnout, especially of minority voters, isn't what the Democrats hope it will be unless, like, it's Michelle Obama on the ticket or Barack Obama on the ticket. So they want the turnout to be high. I'm just not convinced it's going to be. But my old roommate, who, he knows it better than I do. I'm still a Connecticut Yankee at heart. He said, well, if he had to bet right now, he said Doug Jones. I'm sticking to my prediction that Roy Moore pulls out a narrow victory. Raymond, do you have any predictions? I really have no idea. I'm just guessing. Well, I really don't know.
Laura, talking to a lot of people in Birmingham, these are Bible-believing evangelicals, and they look at Roy Moore and what he's represented, what he promises on the issues. That ends up being more important to them than any allegations, and I think they've factored out most of these allegations as being politically motivated. And now when you see the drama unfolding in D.C. with Gillibrand and Sanders and the rest, it only reinforces their suspicion that whether Roy Moore's these allegations against him are true or not, it has the feeling of a political put-up job. And my sense is Roy Moore pulls out a victory.
Well, and of course, going into 2018, the Democrat women use this against Trump. And of course, you heard Bernie Sanders in there. So it's Jeff Merkley, Bernie Sanders, Kirsten Gillibrand. The list will go on. There'll be pressure put on other Democrat senators to join the group. I predict people like Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, perhaps Dianne Feinstein. I may get into this tonight on the Ingraham angle. But Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, on Sunday, and I'm sure maybe you discussed this yesterday, Raymond, when you were subbing for me, but Nikki Haley had the chance to stand up for Donald Trump. To stand up for Donald Trump and say this is a pure political witch hunt. But she hedged her bets on Sunday. And she said all women need to be heard. I'll just do her voice. I'll hear her impersonation of her. All women need to be heard. All allegations need to be aired. And she seemed like she was hedging her bets there. And I didn't care for that, I have to say. 30-year-old allegations. One woman has a 30-year-old allegation. Another woman, again, was in that list of the accusers back in October. The voters, in their own minds, litigated these charges, and they didn't find them either credible or enough to dissuade them from turning out to vote for President Trump. And now, post hoc, the Democrats want to say, oh, okay, you voters took this all into account. And because all these Democrat slobs, for the most part, like Harvey Weinstein and Conyers and Franken and the rest, have their gross conduct or alleged gross conduct, now we're going to go back and relitigate the Trump stuff. It's so patently obvious and transparent what's happening. And I will say this. For all of you who think this isn't about how well the economy's doing and the fact that the Democrats cannot argue against that, they are out of ideas. We are seeing a entirely new trade regime being supplanted. I should say transplanted, not supplanted, but transplanted on the WTO, on NAFTA, etc. You have these pieces coming out from Argentina today where Bob Lighthizer, the U.S. trade rep, is just finally we have someone truth-telling about the World Trade Organization, how it's just become a body that endlessly litigates with very little satisfaction going to the plaintiffs alleging a variety of trade wrongdoing, usually by countries like China. And it's music to my ears. We finally have people in government, from General Kelly to Mattis to others, who are doing the people's work. At DHS, we have the president himself focusing on this chain migration fiasco, which we're going to get into, given what that Port Authority bomber came from, both chain migration and the visa lottery system. That story just keeps getting worse and worse, by the way. So finally we have all this happening. Consumer confidence up again. Unemployment, record lows. Stock market up. Retail sales up. People think 2018 could be a bigger year than 2017, if that's possible, as far as the economy goes. Could be up to 4% GDP. So, of course, the Democrats are going to go back to the old treasure trove of sexual allegations against Donald Trump. And they set it up from the beginning with the Al Franken takedown without any due process given to him. He denies it. And then, of course, moving apace against Conyers and going through the rest all the way up until Monday's phony press conference with the group that's backed by George Soros of the three women, add struggling television host Megyn Kelly to the mix, and then you have a full-blown choreographed Democrat attempted takedown of the president. That's how it all went down.
If we are now doing the right thing in this country, we're having a comeuppance and we're holding people accountable, if Al Franken just did the right thing and resigned, it is time for Donald Trump to resign as well.
That's Cory Booker. He was down there in Alabama.
And Laura, there's some breaking news. 56 female Democrats on Capitol Hill have signed a letter asking for an inquiry and an investigation into the president's misdeeds or alleged misdeeds, these allegations that have come forward in the last few days.
56 congresswomen want an investigation. Now, why do you think they're doing this?
It's all choreographed.
It's
you said
all,
this 2 weeks ago.
It's going to be added to the Mueller impeachment report. That's what it's going to be done. This is going to be added to the mix. So it's not just what will end up being a lame report from Mueller, tainted by all of his partisan activist Democrat prosecutors. It's all Mueller's tainted. So you have to throw this into the bouillabaisse of impeachment. That's what's going on. And it's to anyone who has a half a brain, it's beyond obvious. And Condi Rice jumped in. And again, Trump always has a way of forcing people's hands, which I kind of like because you see where everyone stands. Condi Rice to Alabama voters: reject bigotry, sexism, and intolerance. She tweeted that out last night. So she's with Charles Barkley, I guess. The liberal Charles Barkley. She's with him. And she's with all the pro-abortion people out there who are rooting for Doug Jones and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Planned Parenthood. Is that okay? Look, we know where everyone stands now. And this is coming from me, who didn't even endorse Roy Moore. But the point that what is Condi Rice weighing it? Why is she? You know, she grew up in the South. I understand. She grew up in Alabama, Raymond. She from Alabama originally? Okay. Is she still voting in Alabama? Doesn't she live in California now?
I think she does.
So why is she why is Condi Rice relevant to all of this?
Laura, people are they're digging up old letters from Harper Lee against Roy Moore and publishing that. So there's no length to which people will dig into the deep recesses of anybody who stepped foot in Alabama and use that as somehow evidence that you should vote one way or the other in this election.
Well, it's going to be... Well, I think the Democrats are planning for either a victory or a loss here, and I think Republicans are just kind of in a defensive crouch, as usual. The Democrats just go full bore on the offense, and they all, for the most part, stay together. The Republicans just start crumbling at the first sign of a negative New York Times editorial. You know, and meanwhile, how many people from the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Washington Post, NPR, have all been accused of wrongdoing with no ability to assess the veracity, the real no ability of any of us, no opportunity to assess the veracity of the accusers. And I gotta say, guys, this is coming from me. I don't like bullies. I don't like people who actually, in the workplace, men preying upon women. It's disgusting. I wouldn't tolerate it, and I don't like it. And people say, well, you're standing up for Al Franken. No, you know what I'm standing up for? Fairness. Because I have two sons. They're little now, but they're going to be in the workplace someday. I have brothers. I have friends. And a lot of them love hiring women because they actually like the way women work together, and they think women are terrific employees. And they love the diversity in the workplace. They love it. But now people are starting to say, I am scared about false claims. And I am frightened about having women in the workplace who might decide one day, I didn't get that promotion. I didn't get my position was terminated. I'm not going. I don't like the fact that I didn't get a big enough bonus this Christmas. I'm going to allege or threaten to allege sexual harassment so I get my way. How about consensual relationships that start in the workplace that then go sour? Are those all sexual harassment? You see what I'm saying, where this goes? And yet this is how the Democrats want to turn everybody into a bunch of Puritans, where no one can ever meet anybody at work anymore. Nobody can ever date stemming from a work relationship. Never can happen, because that's never happened before, and people haven't had families and kids and grandkids after having met in the workplace. I'm done with all of this. I think it is patently obvious. This has zero to do with protecting women and everything to do with protecting their perches of power. They want power back. They want the White House back. They want the Senate and the House back. And then they're going to raise your taxes. They'll probably get us into a bunch of stupid wars, and they'll flood the country with more illegal immigrants. That's what they want. They want to fundamentally transform the country. Trump has slowed that process down, but they're itching to get back in power. So let me repeat. It's not about protecting women, as I said last Thursday. It's about protecting their power. 855-40-LAURA. We have great guests lined up. Of course, Steve Flowers joining us, Alabama political reporter. Also, Representative Mo Brooks from Alabama, and a lot more. 855-40-LAURA.
Women who accuse anyone should be heard. They should be heard, and they should be dealt with. And I think we heard from them prior to the election. And I think any woman who has felt violated or felt mistreated in any way, they have every right to speak up.
Who would think that that could have happened?
Thanks to my wonderful sponsors and your support, I'm glad to say that we can provide this podcast at no cost to you at all. As a loyal listener of my program, please consider testing our sponsors because they're the ones who actually cover the cost to produce this daily show. So if you're a dog lover like I am, how about giving your dog, your best friend, a fresh, healthy, and nutritious diet? When dogs eat well, they live longer and happier lives. I'm here to tell you about NomNomNow.com, which cooks the world's best dog food. It's made fresh in the USA and delivered right to your door every week. Nom Nom Now's customized recipes cook fresh in our kitchen, delivering healthy nutrition you can actually see. Switch to Nom Nom Now and your dog will have more energy, a shinier, softer coat, and a longer, better life. Nom Nom Now really is the best food for your best friend. And right now you can save 50% on your first 2 orders of fresh, healthy dog food when you use my code Laura at NomNomNow.com. That's code Laura and save 50% on your first 2 orders. NomNom now.com and code word LAURA.
How many times were we wrong, and certainly I include myself in this, about what affects Donald Trump's popularity? The Access Hollywood tape, saying terrible things about John McCain, a racist comment about a federal judge. Every time we said, oh, people are going to turn on Donald Trump, and not enough of them turned on him to stop him from winning the election. I have a big dose of humility from the 2016 campaign, and I just think it is wise for all of us to not be so sure about what the implications of what he does are.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Who wins in Alabama? Predictions from my listeners. Make sure to call in, tweet me at Ingram Angle, or Facebook me. And do you agree that Gillibrand is all about Gillibrand? This has been one long build-up to her 2020 presidential run, and the re-airing of the grievances of the accusers is all about adding some, what they think, emotional heft to an impeachment report. And they believe that will make the impeachment report of Mueller perhaps more convincing, or at least more damaging. As the economy continues to improve, consumer confidence builds, and the GDP predicted to perhaps reach as high as 4% next year. 855-40-LAURA. The president has been tweeting away, Raymond. Give us a sense of what he's up to today. I mean, I know he's taking after Gillibrand and all of these accusations.
This is a two-parter. He started with, despite thousands of hours wasted and many millions of dollars spent, the Democrats have been unable to show any collusion with Russia, so now they're moving on to the false accusations and fabricated stories of women who I don't know or have never met. Fake news. Now, that was about an hour ago. This is the follow-up. Lightweight Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is a total flunky for Chuck Schumer and someone who would come to my office begging for campaign contributions not so long ago and would do anything for them. Now she's in the ring fighting against Trump. Very disloyal to Bill and crooked. Used.
Very disloyal, too.
Bill and crooked. He doesn't even say Hillary anymore.
Now he's just calling her crooked. I'm calling Brian Stetler on the Ingram Angle shoeless from now on. I'm just calling him shoeless Stetler. He's another one. That, first of all, if you're Carl Bernstein and you're still dining out on Watergate, you just really haven't done much in the intervening years. You know, seeing him on that Unreliable Sources. How ironic to have a show titled Reliable Sources after the run CNN has had over the past couple of weeks. Reliable. You can't even believe the titles of the CNN shows. That's how bad it is. All right. Will Roy Moore pull out a victory in Alabama, or will not enough conservatives hold their noses and vote for him? And will Doug Jones get a huge African-American turnout to turn the tide? 855-40-LAURA. Steve Flowers from Alabama, and Arroyo's with us up next.
More than you know, more than you know.
Both Moore and Jones stumped last night with a number of politicians and entertainers, even athletes. It was a last-minute push to energize voters in a contest that even this morning appears too close to call.
And we're not going to stand by and let other people from out of state and money from California control this election.
Roy Moore is trying to play the carpetbagger narrative to try to turn people out to vote for him. Will that be enough? Saying, how can you possibly allow an out-of-state influence from California, Hollywood, New York to decide this election for the voters of Alabama? Joining us now to give us his take, veteran reporter in Alabama, of Alabama politics, Steve Flowers, on the ground there. His syndicated column appears in 66 Alabama newspapers statewide. He joins us now. Steve, here we are, Election Day. It seems like this seems like it's been going on for years. But
it does.
Doesn't it?
It does, Laura. Yeah, good to talk with you. Laura, that's the one thing I've heard from every corner of our state is people are so ready for this to be over with because, as you prelude mentioned, there has been an influx of a lot of out-of-state liberal Democratic money coming into Alabama. They have perceived that this race is winnable in a reliably red state, and it's the only show in town. We're the only Senate race going on in the country, so therefore we've seen a lot of national and even international attention, and there's been a lot of Democratic anti-Trump money from California that's come in here. Matter of fact, Jones has outspent Moore probably 14-1.
Wow.
He's got $6 million that can't spend. So the liberals have sent the money in here to Alabama. However, I don't think it's going to be to any avail. I think Moore will prevail today because of turnout. Matter of fact, my first the polls have been open for 2 hours, and I'm hearing reports from all areas of the state that rural evangelical voters are voting en masse. There are even lines of white voters in rural boxes lined up before 7 o'clock this morning. So unless Jones has an inordinate, a supreme effort among the African-American voters in the state, it won't be close, I don't think.
Interesting. These two polls that came out just yesterday, one Fox News and the other, what was the other poll? I can't remember, Raymond. But they were basically 10 points apart.
Fox and Emerson.
Oh, Emerson. So one was Fox and one was Emerson.
Quite a disparity in the polls, but the polls, I don't want to say are irrelevant, but they're not.
Well, they were last election.
Well, they were, and they really are, because this is a special election, and it all boils down to turnout. If next year's gubernatorial race were being held, we'd have a 50% turnout today. But in last year's presidential race, if the turnout would be close to 50%. We're not atypical than the rest of the country. We vote about the same rate as the rest of the country in general elections. But you got to picture this. This is a special election in the middle of Christmas season. And, Moore's voters are more ardent. They're more hardcore. They're more fervent.
Stay on the microphone, Steve. We can't hear you very well. You're kind of shifting around there.
Well, quite frankly, they're older voters, too.
Right.
And older people, as you know, vote more than younger voters.
They have a lot of time on their hands.
Exactly. And his detractors, Alabama's divided probably three ways. We have a pretty high evangelical Tea Party vote. It's probably 1/3 of the entire electorate. 1/3 of our electorate is African American and Democratic vote. Then the 1/3 would be typical of your Ohio or Washington or national Republican, and that they're establishment business Republicans. That's been the battleground, and the analogy I give is a 35-year-old soccer mom in Homewood, Alabama, a suburb of Jefferson County. She's got a lot on her plate on December the 12th. She may have one child to get to a Christmas party. She may have one to get to a soccer game. She's got to get dinner on the table. She works 8-hour jobs as an accountant. She doesn't have time to vote. Now, she's not for Roy Moore. But where these people line up, they're not for Roy Moore, but they are Republicans, so they go in three different ways. About a third of them are staying home. They're saying, "I'm not going to vote for Roy Moore, but I can't."
Yeah, they can't bring themselves correct to vote for a guy who would be a vote for Roe versus Wade on the Supreme Court.
Exactly, and there are some that are saying, probably a third, and these are a little older voters saying, "I'm going to hold my nose and vote for Roy Moore for that reason. I don't want a liberal Democrat in the United States Senate." And probably you may have a third, and this would be the younger voters that will actually go vote for Doug Jones. But I think most of those folks stay home.
Yeah, well, I think that, again, the Democrats in Washington, and Raymond Arroyo made this point, I think he's right, they're expecting Roy Moore to win, which is why they desperately need to tie Trump to Roy Moore with the sexual harassment revival of the allegations yesterday. Because when he is seated in the Senate, and maybe he himself goes through some Senate ethics investigation, which would just be a total charade. But if he's seated, then they can keep the drumbeat going. The two sexual harassers are buddies together, and we need to turn out the vote in 2018 and turn it all around. I mean, I think given the economy and given where things are looking for the 2018 economy, which is up, they have nothing else. I mean, this is all the Democrats have is identity politics, abortion, gay rights, and now sexual harassment. This from the party of Clinton and Kennedy.
I think you're right. And I think that they will use Moore as a caricature and poster boy for races around the country, especially in California.
Now, Moore's wife made a really stupid comment. What was it yesterday about we're not anti-Semitic. We have a lawyer who's Jewish. What was that? That had to have been that sounds like a bad ethnic joke. That was one of the stupidest comments I've heard.
Well, they are unique. They're pretty radical. I mean,
unique. Unique. What the heck was that point she made? What did she say? Well, I have some friends that are Jewish lawyers. Oh, okay.
Well, the national late night talk shows will have a fun time with Moore and his wife.
Yeah, I think that's going to be there. Now, but again, this is for the people of Alabama to decide. And the idea that you're going to nationalize a special election to this extent and then try to wrap it up in a big bow with sexual harassment, even though I'd say all but a few of the recent allegations of sexual misconduct have been Democrats. In journalism and in politics and in business, by the way. It's an attempt to kind of tie it all to Trump. This is preposterous. I don't think that works at all. If the economy's booming, I think the Democrats are in big trouble next year.
Well, Moore has adamantly denied the allegations. And, matter of fact, excuse me, Lauren, one of the ladies admitted fabricating part of the story. And so that showed up Moore's support. And he will fight that in any investigation. The difference in him and Frank and the other ones is Frank and them admitted it. But ironically, Franken and Kanye.
Franken didn't admit it. Franken didn't admit it. No, he denied it. He denied most of the allegations, and he said he doesn't remember the other incidents the way the ladies are describing it. You had the photo of him mock touching the woman's breast, but he denied the allegations, and yet he still stepped aside as a sacrifice to the altar of, offered at the altar of sexual harassment allegations. So he was just a human sacrifice.
He was, but he'll wake up a year from now and say, "Man, I was not only a comedian, I was crazy because Roy Moore and Donald Trump will still be in office, and he'll be sitting there saying, why did I quit?"
Hey, before we let you go, Steve, you think that the race will be not that close? Let's you and I play a game. Okay, I think Moore wins by 7 points. What's your?
You nailed it. That's exactly what I said. I said 53-47 or 54-46.
I had no idea what you had guessed, and we are on the same wavelength. Well, that's just.
I said one day 53-47, And I said, one day 54-46, and you have nailed exactly where I am on that race.
Hey, Steve, are you excited about New Year's Day in Clemson, Alabama?
I'm worried, but you give Saban 3 weeks to get ready, he gets ready,
Yeah, I think that old Jalen Hurts is not going to make these constant running game mistakes that he keeps making. I think it's going to be a different team come January 1st. That's my sense.
Yeah, he's going to have a hard time running on Clemson. Dabo Swinney's done a good job there, and it's going to be interesting to see. It'll be a fun game, though.
It sure is. Steve Flowers, we'll check back with you tomorrow. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this, the big special election in Alabama. As huge money pours in, you heard it from Steve, Roy Moore being outspent 14-1. So let's say Roy Moore, according to our prediction, does win. What does that say about the money game? They tried it with Trump. They outspent Trump by a multiple. He spent his own money. Hillary outspent. Jeb tried to kill him off. Marco tried to kill him off, outspending him in state after state after state, and then he still wins. And if this happens in Alabama, 14-1, what does that tell you about the future of the Democrats? And Republicans are down in the mouth, and they're like throwing in the towel on races like, God bless her, Condoleezza Rice, and even to some extent, Nikki Haley. Given oxygen to the Gillibrand? I mean, Nikki Haley gave oxygen to the Gillibrand accusations yesterday, in my view. Do you disagree with me? 855-40-LAURA. We will play Nikki Haley, in case you missed it from Sunday, her statement about the women accusers and their right to be heard and respected. We come back.
Let him find you and watch.
And happy birthday to Frank Sinatra and my dad, who would have been 92 years of age. The anniversary of his death is today as well. My dad's death, and it's Happy Feast Day, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So it's a great feast day for Catholics worldwide. Amazing day for our Mexican friends and for everybody. Amazing feast day, amazing performer, and happy birthday, Dad.
Let someone with a deep love to give. Come fly with me, let's fly away.
Raymond, when was this? This was a late recording by Sinatra,
This is
correct?
the duets. This is like 1987, 88. Maybe
No,
it's later
later
than
than
90s.
that. Later than that. It was 90s.
Yeah, early 90s. This was his last big success. I'm not a fan of this
No.
because you have to listen to all the other people sing around him.
We don't want to hear the...
Though I have a bootleg, Laura, of just Sinatra singing this stuff pure without the other voices blended in. I'll burn that for you.
Even at age, what was he then? 80?
80.
80?
80 years old.
He was better than the Bublés, the Connick Juniors, the
Bennetts.
Tony Bennett. I mean, come on, it doesn't even. It's birthday of Frank Sinatra. What's your favorite Frank Sinatra song and why? That's a great question to ask, actually.
Yep.
And this could be.
He would have been 102 today.
Oh, yes, that's right. He was 10 years, exactly 10 years to the day older than my father.
Wow.
So, yep. And my father knew every song by heart. And it was the last music he heard was Frank Sinatra on Frank Sinatra's own birthday and my dad's. Let's go to Brad in Indiana, line 2. Moore probably pulls out a victory. I'm sticking to my prediction of 7 points. Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think no matter what, I mean, I don't know whether he did it or didn't do it, but I think time will tell. And I think you put a Republican in that seat, and worst case scenario, they do an ethics investigation, and then another shot to put a Republican in the seat.
Wait, they do an ethics investigation. Oh, you get him in first, and even if they do an ethics investigation, they have. Oh, I see what you're saying. I didn't think of it that way, but I mean, do we really want to endure an ethics investigation? Think of all the things that Congress has to do. They still have not repealed Obamacare. They have the mandate stripped out in this tax reform, but they're going to launch an ethics investigation into more. I mean, all of it is just a big waste of everybody's time. And I would say the same thing, frankly, about the Al Franken investigation as well, that they were going to supposedly going to launch on Al Franken. It keeps them. All I can say is the only good thing about it is, on the one hand, it keeps them from spending more of our money. Maybe if they're just doing an endless investigation, but the investigations cost money. But Kirsten Gillibrand, she is. I will tell you this. This is the best she's ever going to look. I mean, I don't mean physically. I mean appear to the voters. Because I find her to be a tedious campaigner. I don't think her speeches are stirring. I don't think her approach is particularly inspiring. This is her greatest hits. It's like one note. She's a one note Kirsten. Dartmouth graduate as well. So anyway, we'll get into more of that. Your favorite Sinatra song and why, as the economy continues to fly, and more on the chain migration explosion. 141,000 Bangladeshis have arrived here over the past several years, much of that on chain migration.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
Shame, it's a shame. Somebody...
Akayed Ullah, he lived in Brooklyn after he entered the U.S. in 2011 from Bangladesh on a chain migration visa. That's a preferential visa available for those with family in the U.S. Ullah was a licensed cab driver from March 2012 to March 2015, but his taxi and limo license was not renewed after 2015. Law enforcement said Ullah was inspired by ISIS, but did not appear to have direct contact with the group and likely acted alone.
I loved hearing some of the Democrats yesterday discussing this as it was a crude attempt at exploding the Port Authority. It wasn't a sophisticated suicide bomb. He also had pipe bomb in his possession. He also came on a chain migration visa, and he came in on the worst of the chain migration visas, by the way. It keeps getting worse the more facts you hear. We're talking about the Port Authority Bangladeshi who came here in 2011 at age 21. He was the adult nephew, not even an adult child. He was an adult nephew of an individual who came in on the scam visa lottery system, the $50,000 a year. So that's how tangential his connection was to the United States before he was allowed to come here. So Bangladeshi, 2011, nephew of someone who lucked out on this stupid lottery, which has to be done away with yesterday. And then we barely avert a major calamity yesterday in New York City because this is just what we have to do. We just have to do this. We're learning more about why this freak decided to pick on this particular part of New York City. He apparently didn't like the fact that there were Christmas advertisements up on the walls first of all, I'm just stunned to hear the word Christmas mentioned in New York at all, frankly. But, there's the Apple, the iPhone, holiday shopping. He's probably just said holiday. He probably just says it, he conflates all of it. He didn't like the fact that there were holiday advertisements and maybe some Christmas advertisements. But again, to listen to Open Borders Bill, as in de Blasio, the mayor of New York, again, this is what New York wants and this is what New York gets. Listen to how he describes why the attacker chose New York.
The choice of New York is always for a reason, because we're a beacon to the world and we actually show that society of many faiths and many backgrounds can work, and we show that democracy can work, and our enemies want to undermine that. The terrorists want to undermine that, so they yearn to attack New York City.
Whoa. Because it's multicultural? That's why? How many of you think that these jihadis went on 9/11 too? They chose the Twin Towers because of the multicultural nature of New York. Now, they were intending to send a message to our democratic republic that they're here, and if you don't bow down to their view on Allah, on the profit, they will destroy you. And you don't think they're serious about it? Well, we had thousands of Americans incinerated, lives destroyed, billions and billions and billions of damages to our country over the years because that's what they believe. That's what these jihadis believe. It's not all Muslims, but it's enough to cause a huge problem for our security apparatus and, of course, the thousands we've lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. But to listen to someone like a de Blasio, it's all just because New York has a number of Asian immigrants. And New York has a bunch of Buddhists, and New York has a bunch of Hispanics living there, and New York has Hondurans and South Americans and Swedes and Norwegians and Russians because they're upset about Brighton Beach. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But this is they refuse to see the writing on the wall. You know what I'm most there's a lot that stuns me these days, but what I was thinking about this last night. What's really stunning to me is that a single gay American would support this chain migration that allows in people with this radicalized viewpoint on just an issue such as homosexuality. Like, you don't have to agree with everything about homosexuality, but we believe in letting people live their lives. We don't want government to intrude upon your life. Stay out of my life. We'll stay out of your life. But the jihadis coming in, if they were in charge, they'd throw you off of buildings. They'd bury you up to your necks in sand, and then the townspeople would throw stones at your head until you're dead. That's what they do to gay people. But to listen to some of the far left activists, the LGBTQRST activists, Trump is more frightening than ISIS. Isn't that wild? They're more afraid of Donald Trump, who, by the way, has nominated Rick Grinnell, gay American, to be the ambassador to Germany, than they are of ISIS. By the way, Rick Grinnell has got to get a vote in the Senate. You guys have seen him. He was Bush's UN spokesman, and he's just phenomenal. Longtime supporter of Trump, a great friend of mine, and he will be a phenomenal ambassador to Germany. They still haven't had that vote. That's not like an important position or anything. We don't need a U.S. representative in Germany, only the biggest economy in the EU. That's not important or anything. But it's crazy though. It's lunacy that we would have a chain migration system in place that would account for 61% of all immigration. Isn't that incredible? 141,000 Bangladeshis in the United States have come in mostly under chain migration over the last several years. Fox News had a big deal on this today on Fox and Friends. That number even shocked me. Now, Bangladesh has had a lot of problems, political problems, extremism problems, natural disaster problems. And so a lot of people want to come here. I get that. But that's a heck of a lot of people, nephews, nieces, second cousins. I sat down, well, I didn't sit down, we were on satellite, with Jorge Ramos. How many people watched the Jorge Ramos interview last night on the Ingraham angle? They have a great show on tap tonight, by the way. Obviously, we're going to be covering the special election in Alabama, and you're not going to want to miss tonight's show. But with Ramos, well, I spoke a little Spanish with him. We went back and forth, and I asked, like, so should second cousins twice removed come in on chain migration? Like, where does chain migration end?
Chain migration is really family reunification. It's been in the law since 1965. And for me, when President Trump says that he wants to end chain migration, those are code words. Trump really is saying, I don't want more immigrants from Latin America, and I don't want more immigrants from Asia.
Well,
and
Jorge,
I think it's...
Yeah, let me just jump. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but let's just differentiate what he's talking about and what you're talking about. What Donald Trump is talking about is not to bar children under the age of 18 whose parents are here. No, he's fine with that. Or spouses. So spouses or minor children would still be allowed to come in. But nephews, a la the Port Authority bomber? No. Nephews? How is that a merit-based system? It's not. It's just we will import your entire genealogical chart into the United States. The entire chart will come into the United States. Your whole family tree. No other country in the face of the planet does that, by the way. We're the only ones. And we've seen the results. Massive demographic change. States like Virginia, states like Florida, and states like Colorado, obviously California, have completely changed in electoral makeup, in large part due to chain migration. It is not merit-based. It is not right. And sometimes it will result in horrific circumstances. We saw it, of course, with the lottery system with Omar, not Mateen, I always forget his name, the bike path bomber. I don't even like to use their names. The bike path bomber. The chain migration problem continues to be an issue. So chain migration with the Port Authority bomber tied on to the lottery system. His sponsor in the United States got here on a lottery system. And then now, imagine if this had been a successful attack. You can't just keep dining out on the fact that it was largely prevented. There's a few injuries, but nothing major. Oh, by the way, the parents, I should say this. The family of the bomber is complaining about the type of interrogation that was done by federal authorities in the aftermath of the incident, the attack, where he blew up his own stomach, like he burned his own stomach and his. Well, I shouldn't say it. I hope he burned a little lower down there too. That'll teach him a lesson. Ouch. But the family is complaining. Remember, they're American citizens. So all this thought, they just want to help. They want to prevent radicalization. They're all assimilated. They're all on board in helping authorities. Yeah, until they're questioned. And then suddenly they're complaining about discrimination. We'll bring you more on that when we come back. 855-40-LAURA. Favorite Sinatra song and why on the 102nd birthday would be of Frank Sinatra, my dad's birthday. He would have been 92. And our feast day, Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is an amazing feast day, celebrated worldwide. David in South Carolina. Mr. David, go ahead.
Well, yes, Frank Sinatra, it ain't easy being green.
It ain't easy being
and
green.
I like it.
Oh, I love that. Now, why do you love that song? Why is it?
Because he takes a Kermit song and turns it into a soulful rendition of something that really is meaningful.
I love it. I never would have thought about that. That's really cool. I appreciate it. All right, we'll take a break. We'll bump out with that. Remember, the Ingraham Angle tonight, Billionaire at the Barricades, a great stocking stuffer, hilarious, substantive. By the time you finish that book, you'll understand what conservative populism is all about and why Trump won. Billionaire at the Barricades, Amazon.com, all your local bookstores. Stuff a stocking with it, and you'll be a hero.
When green is all there is to be, it could make you wonder why, but why wonder, why wonder?
But he's got high hopes, he's got high hopes.
Do you like to be with your family? Do you enjoy being with your family?
Yeah, but I don't have a right to go to any other country and bring my entire family. That's not a universal right to bring your aunt and uncle anywhere you want to go.
I'm assuming that you enjoy being with your family. Well, immigrants do enjoy being with their family.
Well, then they can stay in their home countries.
And I think it is unfair that when an immigrant, in this case, commits a terrorist attack or a crime, that we blame all the 40 million immigrants living in this country. We're not blaming all the 40 million people. What happened.
We're not doing that.
There are 40 million immigrants in this country.
We're talking about a policy.
So you want to stop.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Jorge Ramos and I last night on the Ingraham Angle. Make sure to tune in tonight for analysis of that Alabama Senate race, the continued push to impeach President Trump, and the soaring economy. A major piece in today's Wall Street Journal heralding the work of the U.S. Trade Representative, Bob Lighthizer, down there in Argentina. It's not getting much play anywhere else, but boy, is he wowing them down there. Not only is he knowledgeable in what he's doing, talking about the World Trade Organization, NAFTA, the EU trade agreement that they tried to foist upon the American public. Not only that, but he is personable. He doesn't approach people in a threatening manner. He just said, look, you guys should do what's best for your country, and we're doing the best that we can for our manufacturing, and we're already seeing the results and would love to trade with you. But we're going to do more bilateral deals that are easier to police and that we can amend when necessary, when they turn out to be not working in our favor. So I love that. I love the fact that he's finally getting credit on the trade front. But this is all being done for one reason and one reason only. It's all being done, this trotting out the sexual accusers, same people we heard before the election, now being brought on. A fourth accuser was being brought on by Megyn Kelly today, who said, I guess at an event in 2003, Trump tweaked her butt cheek or something like that. In 2003, he tweaked her butt cheek. That's what she claims. And he didn't. She said she looked at him. He didn't even look back. Maybe someone else tweaked her butt cheek. I don't know. But that's what she said on Megyn Kelly. I thought Megyn Kelly wasn't going to do politics. What happened to that? Remember that with big fanfare, her first show? Do you remember that?
The truth is, I am kind of done with politics for now. Right? I know. You know why, right? We all feel it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
God,
and it's gotten so dark, and I'm just like, over.
No, that is so funny. Why do you think Megyn Kelly's reverting to politics? Could it be that she's struggling in daytime TV? Because oh, there it goes. You mean the viewers at NBC aren't interested in her glamping segment, her glamour camping with her husband Doug? That wasn't a big barn burner in the ratings? You're kidding me. So she goes back to politics, trashing Trump. This is all she can do is trash Trump, go back. Okay, what did I say, James? I said before long she would host a show on MSNBC. She will take the 8 o'clock hour on MSNBC.
Yes,
do you doubt that?
I could absolutely see that.
Absolutely will be hosting a show on a nightly show on MSNBC because she's not getting that anchor chair of Matt Lauer's. I can tell you that right now.
That's a lot of money for an MSNBC host.
Well, either that or just, she's out the door and they have to pay her a huge payoff. So you might as well put her up against Tucker. Tucker beats that Chris, what's his name, Hayes every night. So I guess put Megyn up on 8 o'clock. She can do her thing there. I mean, let's just stop pretending you're going to be about baking cookies and making homemade ornaments in the morning. Nobody wants to watch that. So maybe you should have a better audience at night. I don't know. Favorite Sinatra song and why? Ray in Texas on line 1. Ray, go ahead.
Laura, my favorite Sinatra song is a Christmas song entitled Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And because he nails every note just like it was wrote, just like Judy Garland sang it, instead of murdering it like some of these modern day singers do.
Hey, Ray, you sound like my dad would talk right now. I don't like any of these modern singers, Laura. He couldn't stand when people would do the he hated falsetto voices. My dad hated that. He hated the excessive tremolo in people's voices as well. He couldn't stand that. The screamers. He said, "Oh, it's another screamer. No one touches Sinatra. No one touches the chairman of the board."
Have yourself a merry
It's a little sad, isn't it? It's a sad, nostalgic.
Let your heart
I tear up every time I hear this. We'll bump out with this, I think. But it's one of those songs that it makes you remember everybody who's either not with you or gone to their final rest. This makes me think of my dad every time I hear this. And like Silent Night and this song killed me every time. I bawl every time I hear these. At Mass, forget it, I cry. I mean, we don't sing this song at Mass, but I sing it, listen to it in the car with the kids, and they're like, "Mommy, why are you crying?" No, it's because I'm emotional, contrary to what you might think with my sometimes hard exterior. We'll take a break, a lot more.
Hi, this is Ben Domenech, the host of the Federalist Radio Hour. We're a daily show coming to you 5 days a week from Washington, D.C., where we interview our nation's top journalists, politicians, authors, chefs, economists, entertainers, and more. If you're looking for a contrarian discussion on news, politics, or culture, give us a listen and subscribe at podcastone.com, the new Podcast One app, or at Apple Podcasts.
You're the devil in disguise. Oh, yes, you are. Devil in disguise.
The honorable Republicans thought, oh, this guy Trump will win. We'll give him a little. We'll sort of tolerate him. But I can still go ahead and have my honorable career.
but Trump always asks something more. First, he asks you to tolerate his tweets, then his sexual harassment. Now you have to tolerate Roy Moore. And at every step along the way, the Republicans just say, we're not standing up to you. You own a little more of our soul. And finally, he owns all of the soul. You make a deal with the devil, he takes over everything.
He's such a drama queen, David Brooks. Was he on, PBS NewsHour or Defeat the Press? What was he? I mean, the man has been trashing Trump for 3 years now. Okay, fine. He thinks that someone's soul is affected by political choices in a special election. I don't even understand that. That's not how I view people's souls. I think people have to make judgments based on a variety of factors. It's very complex. It's not just a simple yes or no. They knew if they elected Hillary, they would elect all of her corruptocrats along with her. Many of them, by the way, are working for the Mueller team now. They knew exactly what they were going to get. More people destroying more hard drives, more emails being destroyed, revolving door of influence in politics. As we saw when she was at Secretary of State and all these donors to the Clinton Foundation suddenly got quick access. So people made a judgment. They liked that Trump was not from politics because politics had become so infected with corruption. And they knew Trump wasn't perfect. They knew he had been a Democrat. They knew he had had these allegations against him. They knew about the Billy Bush tape. They knew about his real estate career, which, itself wasn't perfect. He had a couple of bankruptcies. They knew about that. They knew about the birther movement. They knew about, Donald Trump's Trump University. How many times did we hear them talk about Trump University? You don't think people knew about that? It's so bad in Washington, D.C. It's so bad that people decided to spin the roulette wheel with Trump and put their money down on him because the rest of them were so rank in their corruption. And David Brooks still doesn't see that. Still doesn't get it. You can complain a lot of it. It's probably as much as you want about Roy Moore or selling your soul. I mean, okay, David. We'll really focus on you. Mo Brooks, the guy I endorsed in that special primary for the special election, congressman from the great state of Alabama, joins us now. He's going to handicap this race, as the Democrats, I think, have a sense that Moore might pull out a victory, which is why they're trying to tag Trump with the re-airing of the grievances of all the sexual harassment accusers. And Congressman Brooks joins us now. Congressman, great to have you with us on Special Election Day. Did you already vote?
I voted absentee. I voted for Roy Moore. And let me emphasize something. David Brooks and Mo Brooks are unrelated.
I don't think that's a tough call for most people, Congressman. So what about the question? Like, if you a vote for Roy Moore is a vote for sexual harassment, is a vote against women, is a vote to, as David Brooks say, sell your soul to this depraved Donald Trump view of the world?
Well, it's bunk. And let me kind of approach it from this perspective. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. None of us are perfect, as you mentioned earlier. All of us have weaknesses. Well, elections are about choices. Choices between two imperfect individuals. In this case, Roy Moore, Republican, and Doug Jones, Democrat. And as voters, what we have to do is figure out who's going to do what's in the best interest of the United States of America. And the principal thing a United States senator does is vote on the Senate floor. In that regard, Roy Moore is light years better than Doug Jones when it comes to border security, building a wall, stopping the influx of illegal aliens that creates a surge in the labor supply that suppresses the wages of American citizens who haven't had their jobs taken from them by illegal aliens. Roy Moore is light years better on confirmation of judges to the federal judiciary, most importantly, Supreme Court justices. Doug Jones will vote wrong. Roy Moore will vote right on that issue, on deficit and debt, on national security, on pro-life. Go down the issues of what a United States senator is apt to face. Roy Moore is right. Doug Jones is wrong. And that's what the people in the state of Alabama, I hope, will look at as they try to decide what is best for the state of Alabama and the United States of America. And today, of course, is that litmus test Are we going to let the media elites dictate to us, by the way in which they slant the news, who we believe is best for our country? And that's been Roy Moore's challenge. That's been the Republican Party's challenge in Alabama, is to get people to start thinking about the United States of America and who will do the right thing in the United States Senate with their vote.
Well, I think, again, the Democrats, the party of Ted Kennedy and Bill Clinton and Hugh Hefner and Harvey Weinstein are going to now get up on their high horse just because they dumped out on Franken? I mean, there's a couple of things that are going on here, and I want everyone listening to Congressman Brooks and me right now to understand. One of the main thing that's really motivating this, beyond just the obvious launching Kirsten Gillibrand's 2020 presidential run, this is the precursor to her 2020 run. It is also an attempt to throw some chum in the water because, in my view, the Mueller investigation is already tainted with bias because of all of the activists who are working in his office. It's already biased, and it's already tainted. So they need to throw this old chum back into the water to try to gin up some interest in the Democrat Party. It's all about getting their power back and very little about protecting women. The other thing that's going on here, and Congressman, I want you to respond to this, is they're trying to divert attention from their own 20-year reign of cover-ups with these slush fund deals on Capitol Hill. So for 20 years, they've had this slush fund to settle a variety of types of claims, including sexual harassment claims. They don't have a good answer for that. I don't think Republicans or Democrats do. But the Democrats feel like they've cleansed themselves of any concern about that slush fund at the same time. I think that those three things, getting their power back, launching Gillibrand, and diverting attention from their own failures on the slush fund. Congressman, your reaction to that?
Well, with respect to the monies that are used to pay people who have claims, sexual harassment, discrimination, wrongful termination, what have you, I believe all of those should be made public. And it wasn't done when the Democrats were in charge. It wasn't done when Republicans were in charge. Hopefully, we, having the majority in the House and the Senate, will change that rule such that any amounts of money that are paid based on claims founded on wrongful conduct by an elected official will be made public, so that the voters who sent those elected officials to Washington, D.C., and the House or the Senate can hold those elected officials accountable. As far as the diversion that you talk about, I agree with you 100%. The Democrats do not want Alabama voters, or for that matter, American voters, to focus on public policy issues because the Democrats are wrong. The Democrats almost always resort to divisional themes that divide us based on inherent characteristics over which we have no control. It might be skin pigmentation. It might be ethnicity. It might be our chromosomes, i.e. our sex. Those are the things that the Democrats tend to focus on, and unfortunately they have a degree of success. And it seems that is the most recent theme, is to make it woman versus man or man versus woman, and in order to collect a block vote of people based on that one issue, rather than the myriad of issues, the hundreds, the thousands of issues that challenge the United States of America, all of which must be considered.
Let's go to Laura in Alabama on line 2. We're just clearing the call, but I want to talk to a Doug Jones voter. And she says she's an Alabama voter. Is 251 area code Alabama, Congressman Brooks?
It's South Alabama, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Laura, go ahead.
I voted for you, Congressman Brooks, but in the primary. But yes, I'm a lifelong Republican, voted for Trump, but I just voted for Doug Jones. I can't vote for Roy Moore. He's been an embarrassment to the state before any of these allegations came out. And just can't do it.
A lot of people feel that way, I think. I think, Laura, there's a lot of people who feel like you do, who are Republicans, who stayed home and just didn't vote because they couldn't pull the lever for someone who would vote to confirm another pro-abortion justice on the Supreme Court. They just couldn't do it because we're talking about allegations of sexual misconduct that are serious versus millions of babies dead. So they make that calculation. So they just can't pull the lever for Doug Jones, but you didn't have any hesitation in doing that.
No, not at all. I think the abortion, of course, I have 3 children of my own, and of course that's not something that I, believe in, but I just think Roy Moore would be just detrimental to the state of Alabama. I couldn't vote for him.
Okay. Well, what do you think is going to happen? I heard the turnout, Vestavia Hills, the turnout's huge, which could be cut either way, but I don't know. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. I said 7 points. It's going to be Roy Moore, but I might be wrong. I'm just guessing. I mean, Laura, do you think Doug Jones pulls it out?
I'm hoping so. I just can't have Roy Moore be my senator. And in my friend group, our group, mid-30s mothers, we're all very passionate, and hopefully we're getting out and getting the vote out.
But you supported Trump without hesitation, even though the Billy Bush tape came out?
No, not without hesitation. I begrudgingly voted for Trump. I wish,
So you weren't really a fan of Trump, but you just voted for him. So now I'm getting somewhere with my questioning. So you weren't a fan of Trump in the primary, the GOP primary 2016, correct?
I got behind. If he can make some changes, great.
Well, he's already made changes. What do you mean if he can make changes? What do you mean? What are you talking about? He's already done Keystone Pipeline. He's already done Gorsuch. He's doing all the trade deals over. GDP is 3.4%. What do you mean if he can do something? He's already done a huge amount. Deregulatory efforts are astronomically important. So, I get it. You weren't thrilled about Trump, but you voted for him, and now you're voting for Doug Jones. Well, maybe that's a sign of things to come. I'm not discounting your view at all, Laura, and I'm very happy that you called because I want to hear from all people on this show. If you're a Doug Jones supporter, I want to know why. And Congressman Brooks, there you have it. I think those women in their 30s, the younger generation, the millennial generation, they're much more liberal than your generation, that's for sure.
Well, first I want to thank the caller, Laura, for the support that she gave me during the primary, but for the intervention of Mitch McConnell with his gazillions of dollars in attack ads, I think we would have fared much better, and I might be the nominee today battling out with Doug Jones. And just as an aside, I met with President Trump on Tuesday, and he commented that if I'd been the nominee, we'd be up by 20 or 30 points over Doug Jones, which I think is probably
that's
optimistic,
an obvious,
but more fairly accurate statement.
No, you would have done great. But coulda, shoulda, woulda. We have time to waste on that. I adore you. You know that. I was supporting you. So, you would have been phenomenal, and you would have beaten Doug Jones. It would have been. We just wouldn't even be talking about this right now. You would have just been, getting ready to, move over to the Senate. So that's a no-brainer. Moore is a bit of a wild card. Let's face it.
Well, he is our nominee, and there are the major issues that you focused on, particularly the Supreme Court justices, that will impact the lives of Americans for decades to come.
All right. Well, Congressman, we got the points. We got the points. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. We really appreciate Congressman Brooks coming on. We appreciate all the Alabama voters making their voices heard today, and we want to hear from as many of them as possible on the Ingraham Angle. We'll be bringing you the results live. You're not going to want to miss our show tonight. We have other surprises in store. 855-40-LAURA. Frank Sinatra's birthday today. Your favorite song and why?
My arms wound around you tight and stars fell on Alabama last night.
There is a Sinatra song for everything. Every emotion, every moment, from breakups to lost love to found love, exuberance, sadness, loneliness. Ron in Alabama, line 3, the special election today. Ronnie just went and voted. What are you seeing, Ron?
I saw more African-American voters in the reddest county in Alabama this morning. I think they've done a good job to get out the vote. I hope Steve Flowers is right. I am a default Moore supporter because I was originally for Mo Brooks, but that notwithstanding, when I went to poll this morning, I saw more black voters than I'd ever seen in a
Interesting. Where was this, Ron? It's hard to hear you. What part of the state?
Baldwin County.
Baldwin County.
It's down on the Gulf Coast.
Ah.
It's on the Gulf Coast, Baldwin County, one of the reddest counties in the state.
Ooh, that's not good news for Roy Moore if that's replicated elsewhere. That is not good news for Roy Moore. If that is any indication of where this is going, that's not good news. So they spent 14 times what Roy Moore spent on voter turnout. Huge influx of cash came in over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that may be enough to put Doug Jones over the top. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to the Laura Ingraham Show podcast. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
Podcast One has new shows on our new app. Check out all the cool features to help you explore our exciting new programming, like America's Lakers podcast with Jay Moore, Sessions with Randy Jackson, So Random with Corinne Olympios, Attack Each Day, The Harbaugh's podcast, Not Just Sports with Susie Schuster and Rich Eisen, and Sound of Success, the Dick Enberg podcast, as well as your old favorites like The Lady Gang, Steve Austin, Shaquille O'Neal, and Adam Carolla. Get the new Podcast One app in the App Store, Google Play, or podcastone.com.